Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Super Soldier Talk. My name is James Rink, and you have clicked on the right spot here on the internet land. If you're wondering, oh my gosh, what did I just click on? General Dave the Hulk. We've got here today. Uh,
Hello.
so this is not going to be your typical military. What they call it. I guess they want to think we have stolen valor video, but it is our belief that these experiences are real and that we are being taken advantage of by very sinister forces, and the results are usually not pretty. So, okay, thank you, David, for coming on here today. How are you doing today?
Yes. Yeah. This is awesome. Big thanks to James and anyone that's all the people that have sort of working together with a wonderful movement of people. And thanks to James for taking the time to put me on the show. Yeah. And anyone that's watching now. Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks. Yeah. No, it's hello. Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, James has been doing this for years, and I'm really grateful. Yeah.
You're very welcome.
Hello.
Okay, so somebody in the comment section is asking. You look a lot like Dave Morrow.
That's my yes. That is the name that I got from age 3. Yes, that's very true. Yeah, I'm David Marrow. I've had several names. But David Marrow is the name that's on my say what will be my paperwork, passport. Got to get mine renewed or that sort of thing. Yeah, no, that's a very valid point. Thanks for highlighting that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And all right, so let's go through this bio you have here. So David Anderson, formerly Marrow, and several other names, was born on record in 1979, but would seem maybe older. He was adopted, but the adoption was peculiar, and it was very underhanded and experimental. Why was it experimental, Dave?
I suppose. Sorry, interrupting. Yeah, I suppose. In a complex sense, trigger warning. Trigger warning. Um, uh, the times and where things took place, and the adoption, the foster. A lot of things I was told, um, and what actually took place. Some of it I was. I actually did meet. Um, my birth mother, one of my birth mothers, it sounds strange in itself. Um, Before, well, I was told that I'd never met her, and she was deaf and dumb, and many different variations of stories. I suppose in that sense, I was made to believe that I only knew the Marrow family 3 months before I was adopted, but they knew me a lot earlier than that. Um, I suppose in that sense, it's not that I'm trying to complain or in that sense, or make out that my life's completely horrible and everything's been the worst. I suppose in that sense, peculiar certain individuals that when I was adopted and the adoption, many things, um, and then but growing up for years, as many of you probably and obviously you will know just as much and more, a lot more than I do. So the nature of sometimes what we're made to believe and what's real is often two very different things. As James would validate and many others, and meeting my birth mother, but not knowing that I'd met her. So, and one of the last thing I'll say on that, obviously, I won't say too much. Hog the microphone, I suppose. Yeah, whole long, um, and the fact that what's on my birth certificate, she wasn't actually my real biological mother. My grandmother wasn't my actual biological grandmother, and the fact that my adopted caregiver was adopted at age 3, was doing things. I won't go into that. Yeah, no, very strange, very strange. Yeah, thank you for asking.
You're very welcome. All right, so a lot of people in these projects were, um, at least with the project surrogate, were inserted into surrogate families. The reason why they would do that is if, let's say, for you, for example, let's say you were genetically engineered in vitro. So they wanted to improve your embryo. Instead of just birthing you and keeping you in an underground facility for the rest of your life, they would put you with a family that would love you, theoretically love you, or nurture you, so then you would be more effective later on in life. Okay. Got some background noise there. Okay, so he has Canadian Scottish Jamaican ancestry. So David was in Project Superman and conditioned for combat and linguistics by age 4. And he's traveled on and off world. He knows 10 languages, and he was raised by, that's a word that we're not allowed to say here on. Maybe we can say it. We'll say it. Nazis. But they were murdered when he was only meters away. David is a flat earth believer. He believes we live in a holographic matrix projection to blindfold the human race so ET can use this world for natural resources and people as slaves. So we're all going to go into all these points in just a bit. So David has received a download about the Ark. I believe that's actually Ark's ship, maybe both, Ark Covenant. The story of Aladdin, and he has been in chambers below ground in Egypt. He's been on digs in Scotland and Wales, and David was at the Burnworthy Manor, where we both had shared memories and experiences. He was in the Hulk program, and we're going to some of that. David will be sharing more about how he survived not just the MK Ultra, but a life full of complex post-traumatic stress disorder and complex polyfragmentation, which is a more advanced version of D.I.D, or more advanced, more worse, I guess. So, like you said, I think you said you have to have 100 alters, or D.I.D is a dissociative identity disorder similar to multiple personality, what they originally started off with that. Okay, so you have about at least more than 100 alters. Dave, do you know how many alters you might have?
The last count that I can remember in doing some internal work, over 2,000 alters. There have been reintegration processes. I've only been able to communicate with, I've seen a lot of them. Only been able to communicate with about between 15 to 20, but in communication with them, all in all, roughly the last count was about 3,000. There was a count before about 2,000, and several years ago about 1,000. I think some are stronger than others. Yeah, about 3,000. I'm not entirely sure how many at this current moment. Yeah. Thanks, James. Thank you. I think the eyes roll back sometimes, and cross-eyed, sometimes tension headache, sometimes
So you're able to tell when the alters come out, right?
Different names. There's like a sort of different names. One's trigger warning. It's like a sort of auditorium, and all the different alters are sat around this auditorium inside here, and they all look like me, but some are males, some are females, some are white, some are different colors, like a whole variation of different how should I put it? You all understand. It's like and I have to make sure that I maintain your auditorium stays peaceful, because if there's any disruption or trigger warning, they start throwing popcorn and stuff like inside, and sort of different but each creativity's been the way that I've managed to manage say the theatric sort of I call it the theatre. So each altar comes, so it's like they all sat around in the auditorium with sort of slightly different clothes, but similar. They all wear sort of similar clothing, and each altar sort of I have to tend to them, make sure they don't just sort of get angry, and they're all feeling regulation. They call it. Sorry, I said too much. Sorry.
I don't believe we ever say too much here, unless somebody else's life is in danger, or your own, or but okay. So so SRA, satanic ritual abuse. How about let me just finish this bio, and then we can start going into. So also you suffer from amnesia, So I guess that's when the different alters kind of come out, and the other ones don't really remember. You have the borderline personality disorder, and they diagnosed you with the schizophrenia due to trauma-based torture programming. So, all right, and I put a link to your music account so you can listen to some of his music, and his PayPal if you want to send a donation, or shoot him an email. It's all in there. All right, so let's start with, how about this SRA? So tell us what happened to you.
Let me think. From a core understanding, how should I put it? Each different fragment is either an animal or a human or older person from, say, not like a past life, but someone like clothed like they're from the 80s or from the 70s or something like that. And each different one, like an animal, it might be that trigger warning. I was made to watch animals hurt or harmed, so that particular, or it might be that I was made to watch insects tortured, or or it might be different, or it might be something like you see, I call one Alter the Joker, because when I was really young, trigger warning, I was hot poker, trigger warning right through, almost like could have come out my head actually. A hot poker was sort of running through me, to use the terminology, and different sort of how should I put it? One particular ritualistic problem was where I was well, what would seemingly trigger warning, what would seemingly be say, how should I put it, standard psychosex programming, trigger warning, what actually became Masonic psychosex programming with symbology, so hand that sort of thing, without saying too much about that. So the nature of the programming, the ritualistics or repetitive nature, conditioning, the deconstruction of my nervous system to be, and so I suppose when it, the animalistic nature of the ritual abuse tended to be consistent with trying to condition me to have characteristics that were animalistic. Say for growing up, sometimes I make cat noises and I sort of make animal noises. They actually train me to speak to animals, communicate in ways that certain sounds actually mimicking the sound of an owl, or but that's transformation from going through ritual abuse and all that sort of stuff to learning to work with animals in a better way. Always loved animals, but working with them in order to find, but the abilities. So in ritual, I've trigger warning. I've been to certain events you wouldn't see a black person at very often, or anyone else. Obviously, yes. Sort of the only way to explain it is that I think some of these rituals were done in order to make false offerings to other what they would perceive as and the nature of the exposure to some of these things. These parts were designed to see if they could withstand phenomenally large amounts of stress and environmental issues, different things. And no, sorry, handing over to James here.
Oh, wow. So we had Olivia James on here, and what she would do is she would channel an entity, and then they would a certain wealthy family would pay money to the project, the corporation, and to borrow her, and she would channel a demon, and that they would live with the family for a week. But they would also sacrifice children, and that would open up a portal where like an archon would come through and give them knowledge or advice. So yeah, the whole thing is pretty. Did you ever witness any kind of rituals like that, sacrifice, or maybe we could talk about the burn-worthy manner?
Oh, that's very interesting. That's Thanks for that, Olivia. Trigger warning. Thank you for that. I'm so sorry about that. They had to. Yeah, that's horrible. And the bravery to get this far is, as you know, is almost like an ongoing sort of how should I put it? It's not normal, is it? The whole nature of having to put in 400% when normally only have to put in, say, at times 100% and less, and sort of the life itself. And fair play to you for dealing with all of that. In my sacrificial, I think trigger warning without sending anyone a bit sort of depression or anything like that. I always got to be careful what I say. I think I'm not sure what to say. I don't recall as such the sacrifice of children. Animals was more what I was made to watch or look at, or the sort of conditioning. And also, actually, no, that's funny. James just mentioned Burnworthy. Don't take this the wrong way. Trigger warning. There was a particular occasion where I witnessed someone who I mentioned earlier in the video pulling children, trigger warning, pulling children's flesh out of his mouth, trigger warning, and two dead toddlers with their heads removed, and this individual calls himself a fuck, he's laughing at me with a book beside him, some sort of stupid agenda that I won't go into that. I think, it's funny, it's mad, isn't it? Because I expect you found this, Olivia, that when we try and sort of cope in life, we try and tell ourselves certain things aren't happening or have happened in order to, but funny you say that, I have witnessed the aftermath of a lot of these things. I fell down somewhere, it's like a shaft somewhere, and I was sexually assaulted, trigger warning. I won't say who did it, by someone or an imposter, really. My point being is I don't tend to think that humans do this is sort of humanistic behavior. I think the nature of it, as you know very well, James and Olivia, a lot of these atrocities that have happened, I don't associate that with human heart and human ways. I think these are sort of foreign from what we believe in. Not the same. They're not from around here, as they say in the UK. Yeah, not humorizing, just sort of trying to I don't. My personal belief, call it a theory, is that I don't generally believe that humans and those who are angelic, those that believe in life and creation, love, all those things actually have these characteristics, and they and a Burnworthy manner. All I can say is that there was firing squads. I remember that much. I won't go too far into that. Sorry, said too much. Sorry, sorry, James. Yeah.
All right, let's pull this up. So I found the Burnworthy Manor. All right, guys, we see that, David? Does that look familiar?
That's Burnworthy. Yeah, the second picture, inward. Yeah,
This one, that's the graphic. This is Burnworthy here. So we have.
Right. Yeah, that's right. That's the one. Yeah, that's definitely the manner. I don't remember everything about it. Sorry, James.
I'm just zooming out to let you see where it is. Oh, okay. So we are in I think this is Cornwall. Is that correct?
Somerset.
Okay. All right. So basically, what happened here now? They would conduct, certain elites. Now, we have. Oh my gosh! I just had a brain fart. Who was the guy that's Donald Marshall? Okay, came to me. Draw. So Donald Marshall has discussed how basically that the elites would clone themselves and they would do all these rituals. Well, it is my belief that I think what happened is that this took place in a pocket reality similar to what happened at Montauk, where they would just stop time and they would have conducted these most dangerous game rituals where they would pick certain children from, say, Montauk, certain magical children that had abilities, and they also had some black kids there, so they would chase them in the woods, and they had the opportunity to choose what to do with them. And for me, Rothschild put me on his bed, but the black children didn't do so well. And but I guess David, you had your superpowers. So do you remember the most dangerous game and what happened with you? Did you
Um,
survive?
Trigger warning. I recall two individuals. Um, I don't think they're alive anymore. Um, there were missions to eliminate two of the most notorious pedophiles that have ever lived. Um, and a lot of I remember being on a bed, tied down with stretch racks, stretched or tied down, and there was sexual abuse. Um, um, I was made to believe I wasn't there as well. And the outdoor activities, there's water, there's like a sort of lake, and these trigger warning, these these sort of like water, like say you've got like water, like sort of like a big lake, and then the sides you've got like these circular opening things. They open up, and these things start swimming into the water, and we've got to go in the water and swim around them. If we show fear, they would do the bad thing, but if we don't show fear, they don't hurt us. And we had to learn to hold our breath underwater and try, whilst not being afraid of these things. I won't say what they are, trigger warning. And it's funny because a lot of my experiences were to do with aquatic sort of more. A lot of my Montauk, all that sort of stuff. A lot of mine was more terrestrial, if that makes sense. I'm not saying I've never been off world, but most of what I've been able to sort of retrieve and understand has been more on this sort of. But a burn-worthy manner, yes. I was made to believe that I'd only been there for an exchange, like students coming like from different parts of Europe, but I started to recover certain memories of trigger warning. Two individuals, notorious, two of the most famous beepinist pedophiles that have ever existed, and one was in front of me, one was behind, one was a few meters in front, and one was stood behind me, and I'm sort of tied down. They even got cling film wrapped around me for some reason. I don't know why. And outside, I remember there was sort of how should I put it? They tried to trigger warning execute the super soldiers that were there, and because no one wanted to fight, if that makes sense, no one wanted to actually participate, and so but trigger warning, somehow, some way, I thank the Holy Spirit, Jesus, and God. We're still here today. I've got limping, I've got internal damage, but to this very day, I've got scars all over my body. I thank God, and yourself, James, everyone that's helped, all the support. I love you, Olivia. All the support. I'm able to do this interview. Yeah.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. Do you remember? Let's see here. It was a pit, I think, where they had lions in there, and then they would inject the child with adrenaline, and they would throw the child into that lion pit and see what would happen, and because they were testing to see if they can control your fear. Do you remember that?
Wow. That's so, James, you're so amazing. Thank you. When you starting to talk about things are, and don't get me wrong, for years I used to try and tell myself it wasn't real and that I'd never been to, say, military school or anything like that. I thought, no, I'm just some black dude that goes to school, works, does various paper round, that sort of thing. Didn't really think. I sort of for many years didn't really. And a couple of people had sort of made suggestions and stuff, and I sort of no. I was just trying to get my education and trying to sort of make money to buy magazines or sort of computer stuff, or it might have been. But at the same time, what you're talking about, I do remember something that I don't know exactly, and the way you explained it, how these reality sort of reality simulations and what's physical, what's not, and how way you're explaining how the fragmentation, how these things maybe like you're in one place, I'm in another place, someone else, and we're made to believe we're in different places. That's it, way, but we're all in the same sort of mile radius, if that makes sense, or 100 meters, but we're not able to see it where everyone is. But it's interesting you say that, because I do remember something about that. A line. I do remember. Yeah. Somehow, some way, maybe it was you that got hurt by the line as well. Like, but somehow I was sat there, and maybe you took a swipe from the line for me, and I was sort of sat there, and you might have said something like, "Don't worry, Dave," and somehow we got out of there. But I remember more about swimming than I do. But I do remember something about that. But one thing I will say is, for many years, I used to tell myself I'd never had military training, I'd never been to military school, but as the years gone by, people started to speak to me. I was told it was just schizophrenia and stress and stuff. And then as the years went by, then I got diagnosed with amnesia, CPTSD, even symptomology of shell shock, but I didn't really know what had happened. My mind, the explosions have the nature of it. All I can say is that really sorry what you've been through, Olivia James, and thanks, James. I well, all I can say is although big confession, I've been a bit lazy when it comes to integration and dealing with sort of certain things, alters, stuff like that. Just for the sheer having to still deal with day-to-day stuff. I think others have been more successful, like James and many others, in memory retrieval, that sort of thing. So I apologize for that. It's not that I didn't do other things, but it's my responsibility to maintain the collective of myself and who I am and how I conduct myself in every situation. As I do my best, but still can't just dissociate and stuff. It's not right, is it? No, and I do apologize for that.
Well, thank you for sharing that. So I guess I'll ask one more question. We can move on. Okay. Do you remember these crocodile pits where they would throw the children into them, and it was a test to see if they could fly? So the ones that survived would levitate over the pit, and the ones that didn't, obviously.
For some reason, I thought the lion cage was somewhere else, and see if they could fly a crocodile. No, I don't remember that. No, I do remember the Peter Pan thing. Sorry, trigger warning. I do remember that being sorry, big time trigger. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
Right. Well, can you tell us what that means? The Peter Pan program. What is that?
They were what they call the Shakespearean serums. Dr. Beep and Jose Trigger. I won't say exactly any more than that.
Jose Mengele
and the other. What some don't
Dr.
know
Green?
that there's a lot more than of that family. There's those two you just said were they're like probably the two leading in that wrong and stuff. Really, that Peter Pan thing. I think that was about trying to get children, as you've clarified a lot there. Trying to get people to go from one place to another, like trying to get people to sort of leap out of themselves and try and do I suppose, like trigger warning, hypnosis, dissociative weapon that they use in order to try and get someone to do things they're not. Trigger warning, trying to get people to use their chemistry and chemicals they put in us in order to say, well, yeah, maybe not fly as such. From my memory, you probably know more about that, but trying to get people to manipulate their trigger warning physicality and chemistry for strengthening people's immune system, body, that sort of thing. Yeah, there is definitely. So the Peter Pat trigger warning, a lot of that, well, there's a croc, isn't there? So Jose Mengele's nickname was Croc or Greco Croc, and trigger warning, Greco was like a family unit of, some don't know all of them, some wouldn't know all of them. Many wouldn't want to know, probably met them, probably been abused, but wouldn't. And I came across about 14 others, members of that family, quite recently, last year at some point. And it's not that they got violent with me or anything. I was just a whole sort of another 12 family members, maybe between 8 to 12, just all like sort of jogging down the street without saying too much up to worry. Many run under the belief that there weren't that many in that family, but there's trigger warning. Yeah, highly, yeah, yeah. I want to say more about that trigger warning. Got to be careful what I say, to be considerate of other people's. But things are progressing and situations are being dealt with, and there's some wonderful people eliminating some of these individuals that should never have been. Should never have. Well, yeah, yeah. But one thing I'll say is that Peter Pan. Yeah, that was all about dissociation and imagination to try and get us to, mental enhancement, but trigger warning to manipulate ourselves in order to strengthen our outcome. But yeah, sorry, Karen.
Oh wow. Okay, so many questions. We'll just start with maybe the core of it. So I guess we'll move on from the burn-worthy manner. So now we have, maybe we could talk about some of your family. You were raised by the Nazis, yeah, but they were murdered. Okay, so
No, they weren't murdered. Jennifer and Eleanor Manderson were the ones that, unfortunately, but the NAZ were yeah, they murdered the woman who I was made to believe was my mother and my grandmother, and then they went on to, well, raise me, the ones that did that to them, the disabled woman and the grandmother, who were looking after me. For some reason, I was alone for quite some time, and almost like before the age of 3. This is going to sound really strange, like a two-year-old child squatting in a house and being looked after, a disabled woman and an elderly lady, and they just checked on me. Really, I was in this house. I don't know what I was doing in the house. Like a 2-year-old child don't own houses, didn't. So yeah, it's very strange. I don't really know how I survived by this wonderful disabled lady and her, but then these not so nice individuals came trigger warning it round, and they, well, I was about 5 meters away or maybe more, and made to face the other way whilst they trigger warning did what they did. And I saw the last bit. Then I went into the house. Somehow they took me in there, and there's more to the story. But the guy who raised me after when I got to about the age of 3, was in foster care allegedly, but this is a big problem. I don't know exactly whether I was in foster care. Apparently, I was let for 200 days. I was without formal parents, and somehow, well, you're all believers. I think in some ways, somehow, I had to go over 40 days without food and water. I don't know how. I think it was a miracle with someone, or maybe someone helping me, feeding me. I'm not sure. There was no record of a father on my birth certificate or a application for the birth certificate as well. Got the receipt and I think they would I think, but then the caregiver did actually adopt me. It was one of the ones that did. Anyway, got to be careful what I say. It's and I guess all I can say is that's a lot of where my training and programming began. But I won't go into that too far because it is pretty mad. All I can say is that the guy that raised me, he was more efficient in trauma-based stuff than anyone I've ever met, even worse than Mingalian. And the other guy, is the one they don't know about, is the one that raised, well, many know now, but a lot of what he was doing was, how should I put it? He was into manipulating the bone structure of children, trying to instill fragmentation of release of stress hormones, that sort of thing, in order to see if they could core program using the bone memory or bone structure, trying to strengthen for the administration of something to enhance in some way. But the sensitization trigger warning was the purpose of a lot of before the adoption and the alleged fostering to the adoption, to make my heightened sensitivity a aiding of weaponry and for whatever they wanted to do. But I shouldn't say too much about it, because without sort of thanks everyone for listening, because yeah, painful and stuff you've been through is painful, James, and all of you out there that have been through these things and or known someone that has. I'm just trying to be gentle, really, without saying too much. But it's mad, isn't it, when we think we know what we've been through and things unveil and we see the reality, and it's often, I suppose that's the nature. Yeah.
Wow. How about Project Ibis? You want to explain? Were you in Project Ibis? And if yes, explain a little bit
The
about that.
collaboration. Sorry to Karen. Sorry. The collaboration. Sorry, I keep interrupting. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. So the collaboration between MIB and Ibis, and they looked after me, Majesty. They looked after me well. There were some influences that weren't so cool, but they actually went bad to me. And Ibis, I suppose, Project Ibis would be the ground force, and the other one I mentioned, without saying too much, would be the sort of elite overseer of that. So they'd be like the administration, and Ibis would be the manpower, if that makes sense. And not a lot. I identify with Ibis being the nature of how to endure certain physical damage and damage training, and how to overcome toxins within the body, or how to how shall I put it, trigger warning, like predatory training. So being trained to be predatory about in a physical sense in combat, that sort of thing, more from an animalistic update, whereas the other one was more of intelligence, one more physical, one more. Does that make sense?
Okay, so you to confirm you were in Project Ibis.
Project Ibis, yes, more the ground force, physical, and Man's 12 working with Ibis. The two were sort of, one was the sort of the mind, and the other was the physical, being Ibis, the physical, Mads being the work with both. Project, I think also from that perspective, Africa is probably one of the epicenters of what what's written below, trigger warning, that I can, but seems to be a covering of something there. I think without saying too much, I think Project Ibis was the African ground force for science that went on in Egypt and Nigeria, Niger, yeah. I think that my main memories of that would be Tunisia, Nigeria, and Egypt, being sort of, as you know as well as I do, such an old land, as many other places old as well. But Africa's, how should I put it? Northern Africa is an epicenter for, well, some very not what you see every day type stuff. As everywhere, as many places are, but obviously like um, many people travel there, don't they? And historically, um, uh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So what animal were you paired with in Project Ibis? Do you remember that?
Tiger, tiger.
Okay. And was that the Tigress Project? I think you talked about in the Basis series of Miles Johnson.
Oh, right, right. For some reason, like when you mentioned or typed in that what's written below, it translates as Project Tiger, but well, the Ibis Tiger is a ranking of dexterity, physical endurance, speed, and the ability to oxygenate the bloodstream for prolonged time, so that the adrenaline functions in an operation. So yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. And why do they want to pair you with a tiger? What was the benefits of that?
Um, don't take this the wrong way. Cats and me have an affiliation. In fact, I have more of an affiliation with them than, I won't say people. Yeah, we've always had a sort of sorry, James. We've always had, yeah. They everywhere I go, they always come up to me and always like, yeah. Dogs don't always like me, but cats and so we seem to have trigger warning. Yeah, it's a cat thing. Yeah, they just we've always see well, not always, but for most of my adult life, after a lot of the ritual beginnings, um, yeah, no, this trigger warning. I don't know if it's programming, but I'd say um, the family to me, family, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, certainly we can
I
go
know
more.
it sounds strange, so yeah, sorry.
All right. And so typically they would put a child in a cage and have you bond with one animal that they wanted you to take on those psychic abilities of that animal. So for you, it was a tiger. For me, it was a spider. But
Oh,
honestly, Dave, um, you were there living out your life with your family or your family in quotation marks, adopted family. But I think they would have cloned you out, and you were experiencing Project Ibis in a clone body, so you were living dual. What do you think about that,
oh.
or do you think they took you physically, brought you back in time, and what do you think?
You know, I've meditated on a lot of this, and many have helped me in many ways. Um, Complicated, isn't it? How, yeah, I think I've been killed a lot of times, and yeah, and um, a voice just said Starship Troop, um, uh, um, yeah,
Did you lose
I
your train of
have a
thought?
recollection. I have a recollection. Trigger warning of Mary Queen of Scots. Um, I know for a black dude, and she had, like, despite United Kingdom many hundreds of years ago, or however long it was, the black population was not really there. But she was, how should I put it? She was one of the most intelligent women of her time, and she was one of those individuals that would step out the box despite what other consensus of black people sort of made to look down and not be sort of seen as equal. She didn't see it that way. She wanted to learn more and more from them. And I've got sort of visions or visual memories. I'm not sure what they are, of meeting or being on the ship that she had, and she was meeting with these black guys, but they had white man features, but they had dark blacks. Does that make sense? and she would meet with them, but they went to Peru, and the connection between went to Peru, then no one ever saw them. I think I call it the Montauk Mary Rose because apparently from my memory and recall and meditation, what God, Holy Spirit, and Jesus spoke to me about, Mary Queen of Scots was one of the first Montauk, say, subjects. Does that make sense? Whilst being monarchy herself, and she was, well, you know more about it. I think maybe you covered some of this. She, like the Philadelphia sort of that sort of thing. There was the Mary Rose was one of the ships that. Sorry, yeah, you know about this. Go on, James.
Oh, I think I'm gonna go in the other room and grab some pictures. So just talk for a moment. I normally don't do this, and I hate to pull it off the wall because I have to put it back, but it's worth it for you. Hold on, just keep talking.
Well, thanks. Hello, folks. Yeah. Hope you're okay. Yes. Trigger warning. You guys awesome. It's hard to talk about without trying to avoid sort of getting James into any issue. You don't want to get anyone into any trouble. Yeah, I'm trying to do my best to sort of not cause any distress. But you guys would tune in if you were not true. If you didn't know what was much locals. Yeah. And you guys done videos, no doubt. So.
All right, so it's a little show and tell. All right, so it is my belief that another one of my lifetime incarnations was this guy, Jacobus Rex the First. So we have a lot of synchronicities. I don't really want to go into it all right now, but
so I can't see that. I'm on my phone. Could you hold that up again? Sorry.
Okay, yes, I will. Just hold on a second. I got too many of these things. Oh my gosh, guys.
Okay.
It's a little glare right there. I can probably try to hold on a second. Let's see if I can zoom in. Everybody.
That's like wow.
Oh my gosh, come on. This way.
Wow.
Okay, guys.
That's so relevant. Sorry. Wow.
So
I tell you what, James, you are one of the coolest dudes, man. I've always
Back in 2011, I was working with the Francis Bacon Society, and I got a picture of Francis Bacon over here. So Francis Bacon was the Lord Chancellor of James the First.
Wow.
Okay. Wow. But he was the secret child of the Virgin Queen, Queen Elizabeth. So that's where we get the state of Virginia, supposedly the Virgin Queen, right? So so that's why we have her over here, the Virgin Queen. So Queen Elizabeth the First. So she was getting frustrated with her age. The people around her were recommending to eliminate Mary, Queen of Scots, because Mary was causing problems, with the Catholics. She was Catholic, and so there we go.
Wow.
So we got Mary, Queen of Scots. So guys.
Wow.
But
you know more about this. So
I would assign my name James R, and so in this lifetime it's still James R, but it's like Jacobus Rex. But and my mom, her name is also Mary in this lifetime. So anyway, lots of different synchronicities. I don't go into it all, but it's just another little timeline there. And by the way, Francis Bacon went on to become Saint Germain later on. Down the road. But so yeah, so it's interesting that there's a connection there with Montauk. And so does that mean that Montauk would have gone back in time and abducted Mary, Queen of Scots, and utilized her in these projects? Or, I mean, they probably would have gone back even further, I would think, right? They could go back to King Tut and grab his DNA and make Obama, right? Okay.
Sorry, Karen. Sorry, you first. Yeah. Sorry.
All right. Well, is there anything else you want to talk about, Mary, Queen of Scots?
Yeah. I believe that it must be that and I'll explain this transportation of very rare, rare genetics, sort of certain races that, it's the wrong way, trigger warning, facing almost extinction. She was trying to preserve certain bloodlines, rare genetics, trying to preserve, and the Montauk Project also worked with certain lineages to try and make sure that certain races weren't wiped out. I think that's got some, yeah, that would be, I think you probably know more, to be honest, but and certain ships and transportation and travel, time travel, that sort of thing. She was definitely that. She's probably one of the first from, say, how should I put it, from documentation in the West that I've come across. Not saying it fully because I'm not a historian, obviously. My personal belief is that she and her ship, somehow she was traveling to all these different places, and well, smuggling's not the word. She was like the opposite of trafficking. She didn't want certain races to be wiped out because she believed they were important for the future of mankind. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Oh well, that's a whole another side of history. Yeah, so back in 2011, I got some tickets from the Francis Bacon Society to go to the 400th anniversary of the King James Bible, which is put together by Francis Bacon, about 30, 40 other people. And by the way, the King James version of the Bible that we see today is not the same one. The 1611 is different than the 1784. I think it was 1784, which is it's actually right when the Illuminati was all taken over Freemasonry. So it's almost like humanity has been constantly been reset and edited, the trajectory it's taken. But all right, so how about
you would definitely be I'm not going to put you on a spotlight, but what the Holy Spirit, Jesus and God said, you've been one of well, biblical characters, well, you know as well as I do. The myth was the Bible was written, and the characters from the Bible, the consensus is they're not around to talk to us anymore. But as we all know, you know as well as I do, that's not true. To this day, biblical characters all over the world, and yeah, you know that as well as I do, and you would be definitely one of yeah, in the Bible, I would say definitely yeah. I won't say any more because it's validation. Definitely, I know for a fact that you're one of one of
well,
the biblical
thanks.
yeah. Yeah.
So what I will say about that, and I don't really like, I want this interview to be more about you, but since you brought it up, I'll say it. Okay. But I did have it when I was younger. I did have visions of seeing Jesus on the cross and all that stuff.
Yes.
Going back through meditation, basically, see myself. I have like these sandals on, and it looked like my legs were really hairy. I don't know, but that's what I saw. I had this like this brown looking clothing, and I was like a close friend of Jesus, or his name was Isu Emmanuel. So Jesus was something that kind of changed because letter J didn't even exist till hold on a second. That was probably the 1600s, I think, is when letter, or maybe it was 1500s. But so yeah, I was there like giving out food with the crowd, kind of ushering, So, but and I was there when they put him on the cross and all that. But by the way, that crowd that visited Jesus that day we were picking up, there were 300 people, time travelers. So that's apparently a big thing to see. once you invent a time machine, one of the things you're going to see, go back in time, is the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, or Isu Emmanuel. Anyway, all right. So that's it. Yeah, nobody wrote a book about the Book of Harriman, but whatever, it didn't happen. It's all good. I don't need anymore. Okay, Dave. So shall we proceed on? I was not even.
Yes. Sorry. Yeah, I do. Yeah. Well, no, it's good to talk about, but not in no. Sure, I hear what you're saying. Yeah. Whilst whilst we've been doing this interview, without saying too much, it's not me complaining or anything. Do you ever feel like, and I no doubt many that are watching now, many others, like say trigger warning, if there's been an earthquake or some sort of something like that, yeah, it sort of rocks me. I sort of feel a bit like yeah, I think yeah, I definitely said something over the last 3 minutes maybe, but just I was listening to what you were saying, paying attention, but I did sort of if I've been rocking back and forth, I do apologize. Yeah, I think without trying to sound sort of dramatic, I think yes, no, there's maybe been a quake. I hope no one's hurt or anything. But yeah, yeah. So and that's I think many people, animals pick up on it, don't they, and stuff. And yeah, yeah.
So you're feeling like the earth vibrations. I mean, something.
Inside, like trundling inside. Yeah, so yeah, I think so. Yeah, somewhere.
Are you
Trigger
able to
warning.
tell when there's an earthquake? An earthquake's going to happen, or a natural disaster? A natural quotation mark.
Sometimes, yeah, yeah, sometimes, and sometimes I can't deal with it, and I have to sort of drink a lot of water. It's the only way to balance. Yeah, I have to drink water, otherwise I can't sort of deal with it. Gets to yeah, yeah. That sounds highly selfish. It's not me. It's actually, but yeah, no, when it's happening, it's yeah, it's water helps. Water's wonderful. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. What about? Have you ever like woke up, or and you might have uh, feel like lightning around your body? Maybe you just came back from a mission. Do you ever get?
Yeah. Oh, oh,
You
yeah.
want to tell us what
Yeah.
you saw happened?
That's heavy, yeah, hissing blood and so wait, yeah, yeah, that's you getting that as well, trigger warning, yeah, getting that as well. That's yeah, yeah, that's trigger warning. That's so how should I put it? Yeah, it's a real harsh. It's I sort of recover throughout the day, really. Yeah, yeah, it's I shouldn't complain. It's part of the age trigger warning they give us in order to deal with situations. But sometimes, not again here. But yeah, it's not funny in any way. But I'm trying to sort of because many are going through some of the things, and yeah, and yeah, so
What
yeah, I don't know
about
what to say.
how about injection marks? Do you get are the grays picking you up, or maybe mantis, grays, or reptilians cutting you, injecting you? Scoop marks,
Um,
scratches.
yeah, burn marks, scratches. Suntan, um, uh, trigger warning. There's a lot of violence goes on, and I sort of wake up and someone broke my nose the other day, but repaired very quickly. Just uh, yeah, I get punched and kicked most weeks. Trigger warning, kicked and punched. Uh, yeah, I laid into big time one day, like about eight individuals just punching and kicking. But sometimes it's after response of being in combat somewhere else, and it comes back, doesn't it? Like, yeah, because we're trained to dissociate. So, but then when we come back to our where we live, it comes back, doesn't it? The sort of so yeah, it can feel like it's happening again, or not knowing the original where, but got suntan or whatever it might be. But yeah, no, yeah, I totally hear what you're saying. Yeah, yeah. One other person spoke to me, friend of mine called Elizabeth. She's she's having that experience. She's having that as well. She wakes up and yeah, she feels like she's had electric shock and she's got marks and finding it difficult, having to sort of barely walk, trigger warning, and takes her like most of the day to come back to sort of physical well-being and stuff. Yeah, no, there's a lot of that going on. Yeah, I get suntan on my forehead sometimes as well, and I get some flashbacks of all this sort of how should I put it, different. I can't explain almost like I won't say too much. Do you know why? Because I don't remember everything is, and I know you know that one, and everyone else knows that one. Coming back from trigger warning, there's a woman as well, and I think we've been at some flirting and maybe more triggering that been on missions, picks me up and stuff, and much love to her. It's not having a go at her, but I think, but obviously, as you know as well as I do, um, I'm an okay bloke. I'm not a bad bloke. I don't go around hurting children or raping or anything stupid like that. But I don't think all these methods have been taken without my knowing. I suppose is everything that goes on is how should I put it? Not all above board. All of it would be no way. No, no. You know that one, don't? Yeah, yeah. But anyway, yeah.
All right, great. Well, I'm gonna ask this question. I'm gonna play around my ego a little bit, so you're gonna have to answer that. Did you? Because I feel like we've had worked together. I mean, I have memories of Casbolt and Max Spears, but I feel like you could have been there too. I this. So tell us, what do you think?
I think certain blocks were made, digital memories blocks were made to prevent certain connections. Trigger warning. I personally believe there's a second coming, the return of the king took place, and there were angelic crafts, living ships that could drink water and do all amazing things. And I believe that Burnworthy Manor is where some of that took place. And I think a lot of saying that, you know, Jesus' return is coming, he's coming, he's coming. I'd say he's here personally I'd say that took place quite some time ago, and he's dealing with many issues in many places, and he's been doing things for a long time. And I do believe that you witnessed to that, like you said, and I believe Burnworthy Manor was definitely part of what, trigger, have I served with James? I think there's a block, and I think for whatever reason, certain trigger warning, certain things we were prevented from remembering, and the sheer magnitude of these. Sorry.
Yeah, it could be like self-destruct programs activate if you remember something. So do you think they did that to you too? It's called Omega programming. Omega.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. Thanks for both those questions. Wow. Yeah, I think, how should I put it? Sleep deprivation makes a mess out of me. I won't lie. Trigger warning, being woken up abruptly, or when I'm regulating, trying to come back to. It's good for trigger warning combat, but it's not good for therapeutic awareness. So it's thanks for that wonderful question. And sometimes, because I got shell shock, and sometimes I'm trigger warning certain triggers or door slams or certain bangs on the wall or anything like that can take. I don't believe in regression in terms of people should use regression therapy. Not judging anyone that's ever been to see anyone like that, because I think, but I do try and gather my memories best I can in order to be responsible. Does that make sense? You won't know, you know more than I do. Thanks, the wonderful person asking the question. To be honest, it's trigger warning. This is going to sound a bit strange. Sometimes when I wake up, it hasn't happened, say, so much. It's only happened a few times in my life where I wake up very quickly and I go to trigger warning, break my neck, and I go, whoa, what am I doing? In a similar way, I find myself trigger warning, telling myself, oh, I'm just psychotic when I've got, but then full blown abreaction, got suntan. I never go out without covering my arms, that sort of thing. Barely, sometimes I do. It's not that hot in the UK. I barely go out the house. Wherever I got, suntans, even footage that sort of thing, and tell myself, oh, you know, it's in my head, or maybe I'm hallucinating from sleep deprivation, or I've been spiked, or something like that, or a combination of many things. But the reality is still there of what's happening, and sort of, I think, yeah, you've explained it. Wonderful question. Like, yeah.
Okay, I just had it. Let me pull this up here. How were you? Did you always have your memories, or did it come a point where you got triggered, and how did you get your memories, or some of them anyway?
More's come back from planning. Well, today More's come back. I go through bouts, but the surveillance methods that are used, trigger warning, from some of the corrupt sort of individuals that have been given responsibilities, I thought that they should really have, and those that really do actually care about me and do good work and do some of this money trying to destroy the good work. As you need to explain that to you, but you'll probably know is that what I'm talking about. It's almost like I make sort of recovery or start to break out of whatever it might be, and then someone goes to town on my triggers, and I go back into sort of trigger warning. Can't let that happen too much, because that's a really, you know, it's dangerous. That isn't, it can't. Yeah.
Okay, let's see here. I think you might even cover this one. What branch of the military were you in it, and when did you enlist? So I guess you were not really in the armed forces per se. It's more like they took you as a child, or maybe they created you as an embryo. So obviously,
Yes.
you DD 214. Well, it would apply to you in the UK, but at least it would be here in the US. So, what do you think? Did they? So it did eventually go from IBIS, right? You went to IBIS into military service at some point,
Yes.
correct?
Agent 659, Project Starship. Commissar is, how should I put it? There's French and there's Italian, and there's some other things. The thing is, though, as in me formally going to a job center to sign up to the military, no, I'm not done that. Trigger warning. I wouldn't call myself a man of war. That's not. I'm not a man of war. Self-defense. Even I try and walk away from every situation I can and spare every life I can. I do my best, even if. But no, I haven't signed up. But I was, well, I suppose at my adoption, where I was first signed up and put into the programs. Trigger warning. As a Manchurian candidate, my adoption, there was one, I won't say her name, one very famous woman in the Tudor community that was present there, and many witnesses. I was asked to help, you know, the West when I was about 3 years old, and they said, yeah, you know, you're going to be doing some things, and I was even on Air Force. I won't say sorry. But trigger warning. Age 3. Ended up working down mine shafts as well. That was, well, yeah. But consciously, I was signed up, as in get to the age of 16 to 18 and sign up. No, I haven't done that.
All right, so they were using you, I guess, and there might have been some level of consent, I guess, or maybe there wasn't. Okay, so that, all right. How about this? What are some of the name of your alters? Do they actually have names, or are they more just kind of like feelings, emotions that come through?
Lampy, Ellie, Mastiff. I can't remember them right now. That's weird. All the other ones. Sometimes they're pictures, like an elephant, Ellie, Copy, Santi, Chinos, Sanpi, Wunas. It's different now. Pronounced Wunas. they fight and argue. Sometimes trigger warning when stress level gets so high, I can't access certain things. But seeing trigger warning, certain therapy sessions, it's going to sound really harsh. And I love this country. I love people. I've never been racist, but recovery in the southwest in Britain is not the easiest thing for a black person to do. It's quite. I'm not saying everyone's racist because they're not, but the sensitivity and empathy and compassion is not always there. I love this nation. White people, are wonderful. I'm not racist, but the danger factor is quite often like for someone of my skin color and sort of hair is like the way it is. It's constant threat focus, hyper arousal, that sort of thing. It's very, as many go through it in the USA, it's very similar. I expect keep safety, and obviously burning out is not very good for memory. The memory shuts that. What I would think, but wonderful question. Was that?
Yeah, your light just went out. We can't really
oh,
see.
Sorry. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, is your camera battery pretty good? Are we good for a while?
Sorry. What just happened there? Let's see. Sorry, folks. We stayed with you. I'm sorry about that.
I want to ask you how do they split their consciousness next?
Sorry, 1 sec.
Oh, the battery. Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that. One thing I'll say is I used to know some of the names. I've written some of them down. I have different accents like Yorkshire, Scottish, Chinese. Dave is another one, or JV. Junas, Deja Vu, Cyprus. Is that better?
So these altars can have a whole nother language.
I've got 2 of those names wrong, slightly muffled. I think I don't know how to explain it. Trigger warning. Reintegration process. I don't know how to explain this without saying too much. Where I live is not for you guys to know. Living in, it's not been reaccessing, some trying to wipe the information, extractors. And extractors, there's DICO, is the one who fights off, how should I put it? Those trying to reprogram, fights them off. But it's almost like a system, like different alternate systems where certain protectors, defenders, fighting off any of these. But it comes to that point where self-defense is more important than tolerance, forgiveness in many ways. Not in every sense. Mostly that's more important, tolerance, forgiveness. But sometimes certain perpetrators want to control, manipulate, and they never learn anyway. And trigger warning. Not like, I've never consciously ever, from the forefront, consciously ever killed anyone in my life. But from a self-defense point of view, I find if I don't confront my perpetrators, they don't learn. They're not going to deal with it. But yeah. Tell us about why they split your country.
Or how they split it. So how?
There's different cliques, like One Sugar, trigger warning, alter. Like certain things, they may ask me a certain, like they might say my name 3 times, and on the 3rd time they say it, I drop into a blackout, so my head drops, and then it might be like I can feel certain sensations, trigger warning, certain traumatic sensations like being jabbed with something or punched or kicked. Then they bring me round later on, and so I'm starting. Trying to make attachments. I have to deconstruct. Where I live is malevolent. Sorry, trigger warning. Not saying the UK is, but you don't say the United Kingdom is malevolent, but the nature of the understanding and awareness of many are increasing in that awareness, through the work that you do and everyone else does, and the trigger warning truth movement and many other places. But there are some that still have the older way of thinking that's lesser trigger warning for the unification and enlightenment and wondrousness and love. All those things, there's not enough of that where I live, and that's why I'm making attempts to try and leave and find somewhere less not so many around. And not because I don't like people, but I've come to find that in order to, how shall I put it, have breaks from these things, trigger warning, it's important and not just be fragmented or clicks of fingers. There's a lot of hypno, sort of neurolinguistics, sort of trigger warning, that sort of thing. They're doing it to extract content or inspiration, creativity stuff, say trauma-based. Basically, they're trying to make money out of me from my trauma, from those sorts of things, trigger warning, in order to say, financial reasons, jealousy, but at the same time, you guys probably experience more jealousy than myself. Point is that, yeah, I've had to deal with certain individuals, not kill them, and they've not returned some of them, and trigger warning. And that's what it comes down to. The complexity of fragmentation, dissociation is the mechanism that gives us the protection to deal with extremities whilst having to do many things in life. The splitting tends to come from the preoccupation of trauma and certain issues, whilst others, not trigger warnings or behavioral triggering that they try and impose to, and not having the boundaries and realizing the opportunities of their own, that they would be living the life they live rather than trying to live someone else's life, like the accessing of my mind for their own personal, that sort of thing. Not having sex with them or anything. Not, it's not I don't sleep with anyone anyway, or I don't have a girlfriend. I don't have any of those interactions. But some of them want to trigger warning and do the things that a lot of us can do. And I understand it's not that I generally believe I'm superior, but trigger warning, those who are an enemy of those working in the right direction often try and persecute, perpetrate for their own personal deficit to, anyway, you understand, Jim. Yeah.
All right, so certain aspects of torture. You mentioned maybe being waterboarded, some water, electroshock treatments, deprivation, certainly. So, all right.
Sleep deprivation is the most painful one. Definitely.
What is deprivation?
Sleep deprivation, abrupt. Yeah, that hurts.
Oh gosh, it was one of those. What do they call them? Pastas, where they have. It's like a short story that's about science fiction, and they had this story where they were. I think it was like in the Soviet Union. They were doing this experiment where they gave some test subjects some drugs to keep them from falling asleep, and then basically after I don't know, maybe it was like the 7th day, they all started screaming and yelling and like clawing at themselves, and then on the 14th day they all just got quiet, and then somebody went in like to talk to them, and they were like, it was like an entity when it like took them over, and it's like it was, and then they were addicted to the drug. They said they have to have the drug, so it's like their souls up. It was anyway. Okay, guys, let's just not think about that right now.
Sure.
Yeah, I went. Oh wow. Okay, guys. All right, let's see here. Where are we at? How about we talk about? I'm gonna pull this up because you were saying earlier that you think the Earth is flat. So let's look at this, some supporting evidence, and I'll actually put it over to satellite view. So explain to us how the Earth is flat, and what do you think is going on here? What we're seeing with this?
It's a form of projection. There was once an Earth, but there was once that, and there was an Earth before the heavens were made. There was an Earth before. Then the heavens were made, and then Earth was made. And then over certain trigger warning conflicts from other places that have come to Earth, basically from mining and using the planet it became like flat Earth. That makes sense. And these digital projections were designed in order to, how should I put it, cover up the fact that what's been done, what we've done to this Earth, the space that was made, there's not enough left. So they tried to project just to keep people, say, happy, if that makes sense, whilst they try and figure out a way to, well, through so much mining and exploitation of Earth that was created, eventually what was left wasn't that much. So they created, a certain race, after using the planet, used a digital archive, Tessa, to project a holographic simulation, malevolent, to basically take trigger warning, rape the planet of its resources. So the matrix, the digital projection we see is a simulated projectional overpower of our senses, in order to prevent the human race from realizing that Earth isn't as much left of it as what there was. Yeah, that's basically what's revealed to me. So all these conflicts about sort of intergalactic politics, the first Earth, then there's the heavens, and then Earth, obviously, and yeah, no simulated effects to cover up the sheer mess that we made, really, or the messes that have happened. There's more history to it, obviously, and yeah, no, so that is the world that we see now as we're living in, is, you know, semi reality, but there are certain glitches that we see, but at the same time, the reality, I can't talk about any more of that because it's probably too dangerous to. But yeah, it's not that I'm trying to say anything revolutionary. Yeah,
but so what we're looking at here is a projection. It's not actually round.
True.
Or NASA is lying to us that it's actually, we're like in a dome. You think we're in a dome and we're on a super Earth?
I think theoretically, you know, those trips to the moon they said they did, well, that was probably more outside the hologram, more rather than outside the Earth. That's what I think personally.
So what if maybe the Earth is actually round and the projection is multi dimensions, parallel realities, and like there's multiple layers that we may be here, but we're there too, and I don't know, and that the whole thing with the ice wall that's like inside the polar ice caps, so you would go inside planet Earth, there'd be other continents inside. You don't think the planet's hollow, or it's definitely flat?
I would say I'm a bit frightened to talk about some of this. I'm not easily frightened like yourself, but yeah, I sort of reached my limit on that, to be honest, James. I know that sounds like I'm bailing out, but yeah, no, I can't.
Okay,
I can't
tell you what,
yeah.
I'm gonna contact the best remote viewers I have in my group, and I'm gonna give them the target. I won't tell them, so we'll just kind of like be discreet about it and see what they come up with. We're gonna get to the bottom of this once and for all. Okay, let's go on here to the next question. Let's see here. So, the download about the Ark. You want to talk about the Ark?
Do you know what, James? I'm going to make a small suggestion. Can we do a part 2?
Absolutely. If are you getting tired? You want
yeah,
to call it?
bit,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. Just
All right. So that sounds perfectly fine. Guys, if you want to learn more about David, actually, it's davemarrow.bandcamp.com. You can go listen to some of his music. He also is looking for PayPal donations. So, yeah. So, Dave, we can all go shoot him out some love through PayPal.
Thank you, folks. You're wonderful. Thank you. Amazing question. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Let's comment. So, Leanne, Thank you,
Wow.
James and Dave.
Thank
Well, thank
you.
you, Leanne, for listening.
Thank
John,
you.
take care.
Thank you.
We
Oh,
have
thank you.
must re-acknowledge our relationship with our country.
Thank you. Thank you, Carol. Is it
How
yeah,
much
Carol.
Earth is left percentage wise? Not sure what that means, but I lived in the
That's
land.
part two, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I lived in the land of my
Yeah.
book. Okay. All right,
But
guys.
please keep these questions. Please keep the questions because
Yeah.
sorry, Jim. Sorry.
Let's if you want to learn about more work I do, get yourself a book. My website, Neological Tech. Get yourself a meditation cube and put this on your lap a couple times a week. And meditate for about 30 minutes a day. It has pyramids inside that produce chi energy and has crystals that help you relax and also energize yourself at the same time through chi energy. So the more chi you have, the more creative you're going to be. So, but you can get one of those at my website, neologicaltech.com. So, all right, guys, let's call it. Thank you all. We'll all see you later. Let's hold on. I got to get. Thank you, Carrie. Let me try to get that comment off. There we go. Okay.
You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. You guys are wonderful. Thank you. Thanks,
all right.
Jim.
Bye-bye. Please consider supporting Super Soldier Talk by purchasing your own Neo Meditation device. Your Neo Meditation device will help you reduce stress, integrate trauma, enhance intuition, enhance clairvoyance, and enhance creativity. Get yours now at www.neologicaltech.com.